Hi, and welcome to Adding Shadows, the fourth section of the Unity 5 Game Development Audio and Visual Effects course by PAC Publishing. In this section, we will explore how we can use shadows to make our games more immersive and fun to play. We will start by looking at the basics and then move on to some advanced features of shadows. Let's get started with the first video in this section, implementing shadows in your game. In this video, we will look at Unity's default shadow effects. We will learn how to enable and disable shadows, and we will experiment with shadow control. Here's a sample game for experimentation only. It's pretty dark, and you can see that I have in the hierarchy view the directional light, which I've turned off. In the inspector view, I'm going to enable that. And you can see the world lights up, and this is how it looks by default. You'll see in the distance here some shadow from the tree. And as I turn around here, we have more trees and corn. You can see all those shadows are being dispersed onto the ground. Let me zoom in a little bit to this tree over here. That's casting a shadow on this little walking bridge. I'm going to select this walking bridge. And you can see in inspector view, we have under mesh renderer, we have cast shadows is on. We also have receive shadows is enabled. Now, when I deselect that box, you'll see in the scene view that that shadow will go away. So it's that simple. And turn that back on. Let's go back to where our game starts. And let's add a game object, 3D object, cube. And we just move it into our view. Let's make it larger. Now what you see here are the defaults. We did not edit anything in the inspector view. We did modify the size and location. And you see that it casts a shadow. And that's because there's a light source behind it, and that's the sun. You can see it up there in the sky. It's casting a shadow on this box, and that shadow is being emitted to the ground. If we turn that off, under mesh render in the inspector view, you can see that that shadow on the ground is no longer there. So it is not casting a shadow. Now, if we get rid of this click checkbox, receive shadows, it will not receive any shadows. So I can move this over to this bridge, set it right down where we would think it should receive shadows, make it bigger just to make our point more readily available. And you see there it is. Now again in inspector view, we're going to enable receive shadows, and then you can see the shadows from the tree is very evident. We'll put this in game mode and we'll walk on over there and you'll see the shadows there for the tree. Very easy to see. So it's that simple. Another method of impacting shadows is by controlling the light source itself. Let's move this box back over here. I'll make this box very large. We're going to allow it to cast shadows. You see the shadows on the ground there. So it's just a little bit, so we'll make our point. Now let's add a new light. I'm going to go to Game Object, 3D Object. Okay, another cube first before we put a light. And this cube is now in our game world, casting a small shadow. Gonna change the size of this bit and raise it up. Now you can see that this is casting a shadow onto the ground and the other cube. Next, let's create a light. Go to Game Object, Light, and we'll pick a spotlight. If we want to put that spotlight right on top of that box that we just created, while I manipulate it. If we look in the inspector view, we can see what our options are here. Let's change the color to red just to make it very clear what we're doing here. Make the angle bigger, include the intensity, increase the intensity, and now we'll rotate it. And just the angle just a little bit. And you can see shadow type under inspector view. We have a couple of options here, which we'll cover in a video, just so you see that they're there. And we can use this light. It was a very, very focused. Let me turn off our directional light. Make it so you can see this red light a little bit more clearly. And you can see how it's casting a light, and it's bouncing off of one object and onto the other. So this is another way that we can control how our shadows are seen, is the placement, rotation, and settings of our light sources. In this video, we looked at Unity's default shadow effects, learned how to enable and disable shadows, and we experimented with shadow control.